This happens in session a lot. Well, if she would have did this, I wouldn't have done that. Or if he would have did this, I wouldn't have got this and whatever. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Infidelity and affairs start in childhood.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Glen Gilbert Connection. I am your host, Glen Gilbert, and this is where we discuss relationship wisdom for today's man. So, healing, trust, empowerment, these are not familiar words related to betrayal. Normally, betrayal sparks thoughts of deception, abandonment, and a violation of trust by someone you counted on for loyalty and support. So today's guest, Mr. J, is a certified betrayal practitioner, a relationship coach, an inspirational speaker whose work helps people transform the pain of betrayal into purpose. Thank you for joining me today, Mr. J. How are you?
I'm amazing, Glenn. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Just to kind of get a little background, why you started this and how you started this and what is a betrayal trauma practitioner?
I first got into coaching as an intrapersonal relationship coach because I'm a big believer in the relationship we have with ourselves sets the tone and standard for all other relationships around us. I did that for a while, and then fast forward a few years, I had a very close family death. My father actually passed away abruptly. A couple of days after he passed away, I had my first panic attack. And long story short, I woke up in the middle of the night with this panic attack, and it took me a while to get back to sleep. But while I was doing some reflection and introspection on this panic attack afterwards, it really led me down a really deep dive of a lot of unhealed developmental trauma. So I wanted to kind of get into that and do some psychological surgery on that and, see how this has affected me and so forth. And in that, I found this community of trauma, and even more niche within a niche, I got into betrayal trauma. And then long story short, I started networking with people in the field until some CEO reached out to me one time and said, would you like to, go through my program, become certified in this and, help people on a professional basis? And I said, sure. And the program was phenomenal. And I think this field is phenomenal. And that leads me to where I am today. And now about 85% of all of my individuals and couples are on the journey to repair and rebuild after broken trust in a relationship.
Right, interesting. And I'm sorry to hear about your father. That makes it pretty.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I understand that you moved out of your parents' home at 14. I think it was part of your bio. And how did that experience, basically as a child, taking control of yourself at such a young age, how did that shape who you are today?
Wow. Two things I just want to say. First of all, I appreciate you saying, sorry about your dad. My father, when we first got on the podcast, you said, how are you? And I said, Dandy. My father's name was Daniel. And after he passed away, I made it my life's mission that anytime anybody asked me how I was going to say Dandy. Because number one, that's true. And number two, it keeps my father's name alive, Dan.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two, it's interesting you should ask me that question because I've had that on my bio for the longest time, and you are the very first person who's ever asked me about that. So first of all, I will say this. You said parents. I unfortunately, I didn't have parents. I had one parent who struggled with substance abuse, and it got to the point where I just couldn't deal with it anymore. My stress level was through the roof. At 12 years old, I was hospitalized for stress. And I remember the doctor asking me, why are you so stressed out? And I made up some excuse about how I was being bullied in school and I had all these tests and stuff, but really it had nothing to do with it. It was everything to do with my home life. Right. But anyways, when I was 14, I just couldn't deal with my home life anymore. And unfortunately, I quit school. And I went into the work field and I got my first apartment and I lived on my own. And I would have a job during the day and then a job during the night. And I told my employers at the time that I went to school. So I told my employer that I worked during the day that I went to school at nights, and then told my employer, and I just worked two jobs. And that was not an easy time. Glenn, was not an easy time at all. I didn't have transportation. I was bagging groceries, not making a lot of money. And I had two jobs on the opposite side of town. So I left one and ran to the other side. And I lived on ramen noodles and cottage cheese probably for about 4 years.
Usually we
So,
don't. Yeah, usually we don't start living on ramen noodles until we get into college. I mean, yeah, I am very impressed that you just took charge of your life and said, I'm not gonna be around these stressors anymore.
yeah, well, I traded them for different stressors, but I could handle the other stressors.
Right. Like it was almost like you're taking control of yourself. It's like these are stressors that I've responsible for,
Oh,
not
yeah.
somebody else. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of important. And how did that carry over to who you are today?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I think there's no substitute for experience.
Mm,
Now, I'm not going to say that you need to have a brain injury in order to be a brain surgeon,
mm,
but I do believe when I'm talking to some of my clients, it really helps that I went through the school of hard knocks myself to be
sure.
able to relate to them. And I'm talking about from childhood trauma, developmental trauma, abuse, toxicity, um, uh, sexual violations. I mean, I'm not going to say that I have it all because I won't, but I will say I can relate to a good majority of my clients. And again, that's not to say that a good mental health professional has to experience everything, but I do believe that there's no substitute for experience, and I do believe a lot of world lessons do help with my clients on top of everything else, my education and all this other stuff. But I think I also have a great depth of capacity of compassion. But also equally to that, on the other side, I have a big, huge hard time with victim mentality. It's like, yes, you go through crap, got it. You got to get back on that horse. Nobody's going to pull out the violin for you. That's not the life we live.
This may be a super obvious question. I mean, the answer to it might be super obvious, but I was curious as to why you feel that victimhood mentality is a bad way to think.
Well, because what you just said, it doesn't put you in the empowerment seat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, simply put. And if you want to heal and grow and learn, you need to get out of the passenger seat, get into the driver's seat.
Right. And what's it? I have a bunch of questions for you, and I'm kind of just going way off script. Uh, how does one start doing that?
Well, listen, it all depends on the person. First of all, great question, but very loaded question. I think one of the things you have to do is figure out how and where did you fall off the horse to begin with,
Right.
and then you go back to there and say, okay, well, these are the lessons learned, and these are the things that when I get back on that horse, I need to make sure that I prevent falling off that horse again. And you know something, you may very well fall off that horse again, and then again and again and again. You also have to have a sense of stick to itiveness, is that no matter how many, I mean, I think it's WD-40 and what is that, Phantom 409, the spray. I mean, this shows us that
Mhm.
there's a lot of mistakes we make before we actually are, and we're still making them. That's why I don't consider ourselves human beings. We're all human evolvements. We're all learning. But in order to learn, a lot of times you have to make mistakes and learn from them. A lot of times on these podcast interviews, I'm introduced as Mr. J, an expert in this field. And the only thing I'm an expert in is failure. But it's because of failure where I have my wisdom from wounds.
Isn't that was it Michael Jordan commercial where I've missed the basket, I don't know,
Yes,
14,000 times, and that's why I
absolutely.
win? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Um, so what is betrayal trauma and how does it differ from other types of emotional trauma?
Okay. Betrayal trauma. So basically, let me just say this. Trauma, the Latin word for trauma is wound.
Mm.
So while I won't say everybody has significant trauma, I will say that everybody has wounds.
Mm.
Even if we come from a good childhood, trauma is things that have happened to us, but it's also things that haven't happened to us, things that maybe we need, from neglect or what have you. Also, trauma is not necessarily what happened to us per se, but it's how our body responds to it. Because you can have 10 different people that see the same thing or experience the same thing, and only 3 could be traumatized, or 7 could be traumatized, and the other ones aren't. All depends on so many things: coping mechanisms, support systems, maybe belief systems. I mean, it really depends. But I'll give you an analogy of betrayal trauma, depending on the time we have really quick. But just imagine that there's a bridge about a mile above ground, and it's a mile long. And
Mhm.
here we are on this bridge. And you're at the beginning of the bridge, and you have to get across the bridge to safety because under this bridge, Glenn, are active volcanoes and fires and earthquakes. And it is so hot. You can feel the burn in the soles of your shoes.
Mm.
Now, when you are trying to get across from that bridge, let's just say you have the two most things that are important to you in your arms. I'll just say my kids. I have two kids. I have a son and a daughter. So let's just say I got my son here, my daughter here, and I got to go to the opposite end of the bridge. Okay. And as I'm walking, the smoke is so thick from the fire that it's making my eyes watery. I can't even see. So what I do is I'm trying to reach in front of me to touch the shoulder of the person that I love and trust the most with my life. They're going to lead me to the other side. And so while I'm walking and I'm inching up and my heart's beating and I feel the flames and I smell the lava and I got my hand on the shoulder of the person in front of me because my eyes are burning and I'm holding my kids. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the bridge collapses and I start falling. And I'm looking down and I'm about to go into the eye of the volcano. And I got my kids who are looking at me, Daddy, what's going on? And I'm looking around to grab something. There is nothing to grab. And then I look up at the bridge and I see the person that I loved and trusted the most have a hammer. And they're the ones that made the bridge collapse.
Mhm.
And now my mind is completely hijacked. And I'm like, what is going on here? And then you fall and you die emotionally and mentally, but not physically. And that's where I come in. So that's an analogy of betrayal trauma.
Oh my gosh. You have to, so you're the one that walks on the bridge and you're like, here's a lifeline before you fall all the way in the volcano. Here, it's like, I'm going to stop you before you
Well,
implode.
actually, I'm the person that goes into the volcano and takes you out and says, listen, this is how we need to repair and rebuild yourself.
Beautiful. That's awesome. Um, so how does betrayal impact our ability to trust again? It sounds like you kind of tapped on that a little bit, but you know, how does betrayal impact our ability to trust again within ourselves and with others?
Well, Glenn, think about it. When we trust somebody, when we invite somebody into our world, our existence, our life, we co-create with them. So you go from having your own roots, and in a lot of ways, you still have your own roots, but in a lot of ways, you also are building roots with each other. And that person becomes you, and you become that person, and you build roots with them. You co-create with them. And when the person that you're with, and now listen, I'm talking about spouses and partners and significant others, and that's probably about 90% of what I deal with. But we can have betrayal trauma from a parent. We can have betrayal trauma from a boss. We can have betrayal trauma actually from ourselves, which I can get into that if we got time later. So when that roots, when that bond breaks, you lose yourself
Mm.
because you are co-creating with this person. And now you're thinking, well, wait a minute. If this person who I loved and trusted with my everything could do this to me, is my picker off, number one? Am I off, number two? And then here comes the narration. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not this enough. Maybe I'm not that enough. So you completely lose your self-worth, your self-identity, your self-trust, yourself, all this and that. Now, you did ask me a question that I do want to answer.
Mm.
There's actually a lot of ways that betrayal trauma is different from, say, non-betrayal trauma, but I'm just going to give you quickly just three, just for time purposes.
Mm.
Number one, because it's personal. If you lose a parent, it's traumatizing. You're sad. You're devastated. It's traumatizing. But you don't question yourself. I mean, unless you unalive them, but you don't question yourself. You don't say, geez, what did they have to do with me? Second of all, betrayal trauma is a secret society. If you have a family member that passes away, you're going to get coworkers that, bring you a meal. You're going to have your neighbors that stop by. What do you need? You're going to have family and friends come to the service. You find, phone numbers underneath your mattress, and your spouse is calling some people, or, hair in your glove compartment, or lip gloss behind your seat. You don't want to tell the masses because there's grief and shame and embarrassment. So it's a secret society. And the other last way I'll just tell you is that with trauma, if you lose a family member, again, that was my example, it's going to affect your here and now, and it's going to affect your future. But when it comes to betrayal trauma, it not only affects your here and now and your future, but it also affects the past. You no longer can drive by certain hotels, certain restaurants, certain places. You no longer can look at family vacations you took at 5 years ago because that's going to affect you and trigger you to, wait a minute, when they told me they had a call and they had to leave for 2 hours, did they really have a call? So those are just three ways that betrayal trauma is different from, say, non-betrayal trauma.
Sure. Yeah. And all of that history, like you just said, comes into question. All of those little things. What are these phone numbers? Did you really go on, that work planned outing, travel outing? I mean, all that thing can come back to haunt you. I think for men, even what you were saying about you're trying to plan ahead, or you're trying to just set yourself up with something that's going to be there 20 years from now, so you can have a home together and you can retire together, and even just, what do I want to say, before you move into that assisted living place, you want to create all of these memories. Then all of a sudden betrayal comes in and all of that future planning goes poof.
Oh yeah. Your life implodes and explodes.
Yeah.
And 100%, then you have all of this. Well, really what sets in after that, which is very tough to get people to start changing, is the narrative, But really, we have to be very careful of our narrative, very careful of our narrative. As a matter of fact, let me just give you an example.
Yeah.
I talk to a lot of couples, and let's just say they're saying, well, I can't have sex with my partner, my spouse anymore, like they had sex with them. And even though on its face, that's true, that's accurate, that's a correct statement. Well, one of the things I really try to help couples do is let's really break down your narrative, because yes, what you just said is true, but here's the deal. When it comes to physical interaction with your spouse, your partner, your significant other, sex, you're bringing your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit, your vulnerabilities, your history, your honesty, your integrity. When you're having casual sex outside your relationship, which you should never have, don't get me wrong, it's a mechanical act. They just brought their body there. They were probably even disassociating if they had, whatever. So one of the things I really try to do is have couples reframe some of the belief system. Because, man, once our narrative starts in, and we get our narrative from our insecurities and our past traumas, so that's also something we got to work on. But we just have to be very careful with the narrative after broken trust, because what we do is we apply the unhealed versions of ourselves that goes through all of our filters. All that narrative goes into our filters. Our filters are wounded, and then we start reacting from the information. I really try to completely change the narrative so it goes through different filters and different understandings.
I'm kind of sidestepping my questions again. So how does that start? Like, I'm thinking of actionable items that people actually have to do to make something like that sink in, because that mind narrative can be very difficult to change.
Glenn, almost impossible,
Especially
with a lot of people, especially if people have a lot of childhood trauma, developmental trauma, and the very wounds that are keeping them safe. Now I'm asking them to challenge.
Right.
Ooh, absolutely not.
Right.
But one of the things that I actually ask people to do, to be honest with you, is, well, a couple things. Number one, write down fact with nothing attached to it. And I'm going to give you an example. How many times have you heard a situation like this, right? Let's just say male-female couple, okay? And the female will get upset and she'll say, can you take out the trash? Please take out, and this is the fourth time I asked you to take out. Now, if your mother asked you to take out the trash, you take out the trash. Because the other day when my mother asked me if we come over for dinner, you rolled your eyes, but yet because you don't love me, you don't respect me, you don't. Whoa. What is fact? What is feeling?
Right.
The fact is the trash wasn't taken out when you asked them to. That's it. No fear. So that's one of the things I have people do is stop with your insecurities and all this other story that you put up to because that's what a lot of times people hear is, you cheated on me because you weren't attracted to me. And you cheated on me because I must have gained weight from the baby. And you cheated on me because I let you disrespect me and take advantage of me. And you cheated. Whoa. Let's fact feel it. That's number one. Number two, but even lower than that, a layer under than that, is you have to break down the lies that you chose to believe all your life that got you to where you are today.
Hmm.
I'm going to give you an example. Hypothetically speaking, let's just say you're younger and you bring a school project home, right? You know, mom, look what I did. I created this project. And let's just say she's like, okay, but I'm cooking right now. I can't, I'm cooking. I got my hands in dough and then I got to wash dish, whatever. The message you heard, what you think you heard was, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. Nothing, I don't mean whatever. And so that's the story that we believed. And I'm going to tell you something, Glenn, a lot of our trauma comes from the suffering simply for the lies that we believed.
Hmm.
So we need to go back to day one and start undressing and undoing and unraveling those lies that we believed and replace them with the truth. Our mother was cooking. That's it. We're not unlovable. We're not a waste of time. We're not a nuisance. We're not an inconvenience. Our mother had her hands wet. She just needed 10 seconds. And so then you have to retrain your own brain not to believe the lies. And that's going to help now your adult brain. But I don't want to digress. I'll stop there.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, like I was kind of hinting on earlier, what we deal with to survive as a child really carries over to our adulthood and into relationships.
It does. And I'm going to tell you something. Often what happens in our childhood that keeps us safe often sabotages us when we're young,
100%.
when we're older. So for example, I'll use that same thing. Let's just say we bring a report card home, right? And the only time our parents give us attention is if we get good grades. So we know, oh, okay, if I eat my meal and clean my dishes and say yes, ma'am, and no, sir, and I bring home good, I'm gonna be safe. That gives me safety in my home. I know my parents are gonna love me. I'm not gonna get called names. I'm gonna be fat. That keeps me safe. Well, now you get into adulthood and you try to people please in your relationship, and that your spouse just doesn't go for that. That doesn't work now. Or you try to people please so much that now you're going outside of your relationship, not giving your partner what he or she needs. Same exact thing. If let's just say you have a raging alcoholic for a parent, right? And you say, okay, you know what? I don't want to go home after school because my mother's drunk and she's gonna, curse and scream and call me names. I'm going to stay away. I'm going to avoid my mother. I'm not going to tell her about my day. I'm not going to tell her about my problems. So avoiding sharing anything about me keeps me safe. Then you get older, you get into a relationship, and you know what you hear from your spouse? You need to open up to me. I don't know who you are. Say something. What do you do? What are you thinking? Well, what kept you safe when you were younger is now sabotaging you in your relationships when you get older.
Yeah, I was thinking of the whole when you were talking about grades and you get that positive feedback if you get good grades. There's also that flip side of you only get attention if you get bad grades. Like, what are you doing all day? But if you get good grades, you don't hear anything about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I'm going to tell you something. Then we get older, Glenn, and we have these personalities. And when people talk to us, you know what we do? We sit in our chair and say, well, that's just who I am. And no, it's not who you are. It's who you've become because you never healed that childhood trauma. You're actually a free person struggling to get out of this costume. But until you do that work, you're going to believe this is just the person you are.
Right. Yeah, that took me a long time. I only just realized it recently. A lot of the relationships that I feel didn't go very well. I feel like, oh, wow, when I was a little kid, all of the things that I used to survive does not transfer over to having a good relationship. And I just learned that. I mean, that was like, that's a big epiphany for me. And so you're just kind of confirming that whole thing of like, oh, wow. The whole thing of just trying to, as a little kid, this is what you need to do to survive. And if it was an avoidant thing where it's just like the feedback you get, it's always negative, of course you're not going to pursue it. And then when you get older, so like any kind of positive feedback feels so weird. So just is this right? But
yeah.
Anyway.
And that can really pose an issue in your relationship, especially if you're with somebody who wants to be acknowledged when they give you positive feedback.
Of course. So what are the first steps someone should take after discovering infidelity or deception?
I don't mean to laugh, but
I know
that's such an amazing question. But I'll tell you something.
Yeah.
imagine you set somebody on fire and their skin literally is dropping. They're on fire. And then you're telling them, okay, hold on, sit down, take some breaths. Are you serious? I'm on fire.
It sounds like a
So,
South Park episode. I'm
so,
sorry, but my bad.
so no, no, no. So your question is amazing and it's so good. But I want to really, especially your listeners, if they're ever in this situation, to understand I completely get where you're asking the impossible. I get it. Your brain is hijacked. You're in a state of hyper arousal, hyper vigilance. You feel like there is a starving wild tiger in the room looking at you, growling. The last thing you want to hear is, okay, take out a piece of paper. We're going to write down our feelings. I mean, so, okay, all right, enough of that. One of the things that I really ask my clients is number one, please, please, please do not make any major life decisions anytime soon. If you want to stay in the relationship eventually, you can decide that months from now, weeks from now, years from now. If you want to leave the relationship, you can decide that weeks, months. If you want to knife your spouse, I'm just kidding. No, don't do that. Although I've had people that have done that. No,
No, don't do that.
No.
We're not advocating.
No, absolutely not.
Right.
So number one, do not make any major decisions anytime soon. You're not thinking with your prefrontal cortex. It's completely offline. That's number one. Now, once you get to a point where you have a window of sanity, one of the first things I have everybody do, especially if you're the person who was betrayed, is you need to create what's called a needs assessment. And the reason for this is because everybody's needs are different. And so what you do is, try and write down 3 people that you can call at any point that are just going to listen to you. That's all. Just going to listen to you with no judgment. Write down 3 people that you can call that you'll pick up the phone and they won't ask you any questions. They'll just pray with you. That could be your pastor. That could be whatever. How about 3 restaurants that you can call, even if you have an app, and you can just press a button and within a half an hour, you got a pizza delivered to your door? Because there's a lot of people out there with young kids and you're on the bed in a fetal position crying a river of tears because your heart was just snatched out of you, but your kids still need to eat. So you need to be able to press 2 buttons and a pizza is going to be delivered in a half an hour. What are 3 shows or comedy skits or whatever that you can watch that bring you laugh and humor? Now, you're not going to laugh. You're not going to chuckle. You're not even going to crack a smile. But will there be a microscopic inch in your brain that opens up to, you know what? Life maybe is just not all dark and dull. So that's what I would. First thing is a needs. First of all, don't make any major decisions. Second of all, needs assessment. And then you have to start slowly with, okay, what does this hour look like for me? What is this, really slowly going through each day. But I'll tell you something, Glenn, I have people that call me that are 30 years out of betrayal and something just happened, like a life event that brought up some triggers maybe of that unhealed betrayal. And then I have people that are bear hugging the toilet, vomiting because they just found out.
Yeah. That'll stick with you. Yeah. What did they say? The 2 things that are most traumatic in a person's life is like death of a parent or a loved one, and then divorce, where it's just, it is just life altering. Right?
Yeah. And both of them have profound grief.
Yes.
And grief is very tough and it lasts a long time. Right. And especially with infidelity, it's called ambiguous grief because somebody's still living, but yet there's a loss there. So it's very ambiguous.
Right. So can we talk about the connection between, and I think we touched on a little bit, the connection between betrayal and nervous system dysregulation. And my understanding is of nervous system dysregulation is a condition in which the nervous system becomes overly sensitive and reactive. It primarily affects the autonomic nervous system, which governs involuntary bodily functions, such as heart rate, breathing, temperature regulation, and digestion. So it almost sounds like, well, I'll let you talk.
Yeah. So listen, when it comes to our nervous system, number one, our amygdala, which is the almond-shaped part of the lower back part of our brain, that's our alarm system. And what that does is its only job, its only feature is to keep us safe. It's to keep us safe in life. What happens is when you discover a betrayal in your life, it's like somebody takes a sledgehammer and pounds your amygdala.
Mm.
So if you take a smoke detector and you smash it with a hammer, it's going to start going off and there's no smoke. Well, that's what happens with us is that when you realize there's been betrayal in your life, everything, everyone, and everywhere, there's hypervigilance.
Mm.
You can't go to sleep. You can't go to the grocery store. You can't pull out of your driveway without the fear of something. If you go to the store, you're thinking, who's going to be around the other aisle that's going to jump on me? If you go to sleep, you wake up with tremors and night sweats. You have panic attacks. You have anxiety attacks. Your cortisol is out of whack. The majority of people after broken trust or infidelity, studies show that you gain a minimum of between 20 and 40 pounds after betrayal. Now, there's the other part of that where people have no appetite at all, and then they become skeletal and they lose weight, but usually they gain weight. And one of the main reasons is because, first of all, stress is all in our stomach, and it just causes havoc with food. But also, one of the things that we want to run to is comfort food when we're feeling down. And the last thing we want to do is go to the gym, get exercise. We just want to lay in bed and cry. And which is understandable. Infidelity has been linked to IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. Infidelity has been linked to heart disease. And I'm going to tell you something. If you go to a pond and you throw a big rock or a boulder in the middle of that pond, and it has a ripple effect, there's not an ounce or drop of water that's not going to be affected by that rock. And that's what I say when it comes to betrayal trauma. There's not a part of your existence that's not affected. You are affected emotionally, mentally, financially, spiritually, psychologically. You are affected in every way. You can't go to sleep without having nightmares. You can't, and then you wake up with tremors, night sweats, panic attacks. Your nervous system is completely out of whack. And it can stay that way for a long time. And if you don't deal with it, quite possibly forever.
Right. That's pretty traumatic. It's something that does need to be taken care of so you don't lose yourself, really. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And you do lose yourself. And I'm going to tell you another thing too, real quick. I don't know if you ever heard of the term betrayal blindness. And the reason I say it, okay, really quick, betrayal blindness is like, you ever hear the story of Little Red Riding Hood? Like, she wants to go see her grandmother, so she bakes oatmeal cookies and banana bread, and she trudges through the scary forest. Well, she gets to her grandmother's house and she knocks on the door, but she doesn't hear anything. Well, something in her body says something's off, but she wants to see her grandmother so much that betrayal blindness kicks in, and she's like, oh no, she's probably, out in the back pickling beets or something, whatever. So she opens up the door. She's like, Grandma. She doesn't hear anything. Something in her system knows something up, but she just excuses it away. Finally, she goes in the back bedroom. Glenn, she knows this isn't her grandmother. Like, she says, Grandma, why are your eyes beady and your jaws big and your teeth are shut? She knows it's not her grandmother, but betrayal blindness kicked in so much because she wants to see her grandmother that she just suppresses it, represses it, excuses it away. And it's to her detriment. She gets eaten. A lot of times when we're in relationships and we might see like some blonde hair on our partner's, car seat, or we might see some lipstick, whatever, or we might see, our partner with their boss at a coffee shop, you're talking. And what do? Oh, they're so nice. They gave their coworker a ride home. Oh, he or she is so nice. They're probably talking to their boss about, the boss's marital problems. Oh, what? Now, here's the deal. There might be something in our body that says something's off, but betrayal trauma, which is a part of our fight or flight system, that kicks in, betrayal blindness. It's a key that was termed by Jennifer Freed in the 90s. What that does is it's supposed to keep us safe, because if we are to accept the reality, it would be too much for our nervous system. So if we were to say, oh, there's blonde hair on my husband's car or my wife's car, whatever, and I don't have blonde hair, what we do is immediately our brain starts thinking, oh my God, if they're being unfaithful, I have to be embarrassed with my friends and tell my friends. And then what's that going to do for my future? And no, I want to have the big, nice wedding. And what's going to happen to our kids? They're going to have, alternate weekends with their, no, I don't want to go there. I don't want to think that. So let me just excuse it away. And a lot of this happens on a subconscious level. But what happens, Glenn, is when the rubber hits the road and the dust settles and we realize the accuracy and the fact that we were deceived and bamboozled and betrayed and cheated on, now we're trying to heal when we lost ourselves because we let betrayal blindness succeed. So now we're trying to heal what we know when we don't even know who we are.
It really,
so it's a big deal.
Yeah, it really is a lot more detrimental than a lot of people want to admit.
It's life shattering. It's not irreparable, but it's life shattering.
Right.
It decimates, shatters, damages. There's no stone unturned in your existence this doesn't affect.
Like everything you just said needs to be put into that or some comical bubble to where everyone's like, you're ignoring red flags. And they're like, I don't think I am. And you're like, this is what's going to happen to you. You remind me of this story. It was a friend of a friend. It was Michael Sartain talking about one of his friends. And I'll just try and be super brief. So she got together with this guy and they had a great time. And, they ended up, she moved to a different country for this man. So I think she moved down to Australia with this man, got married and was having a child. But I think when she was having a baby, he was cheating on her. And so she moved back and she was telling everybody, I can't believe he cheated on me. I can't believe this happened, blah, blah, blah. And Michael and a few of his friends were like, he's a male stripper. It was probably going to happen. So blinded from all of the red flags that might have cropped up is just what you reminded me of. It's just, and this happens, I think, to a lot of people. I can say it happened to myself, where we're ignoring these red flags instead of investigating them and being like, there's something there that I should be really paying attention to that I really don't want to.
Yeah. But it's difficult for a lot of people, understandably, because number one, we want to believe in the good of others. That's just our default. It's natural. We want to believe in the good of others, number one. Number two, we want to believe that we have good decision-making skills.
Sure.
So we want to believe if I chose you to be a part of my life, I want to trust and believe in my abilities, Right. And the other
you wouldn't do that to me. Why would you do that to me? It's me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think a lot of us in all stages and phases of our life, we like to pop hopium. It's like, I hope this is going on. I'm going to have to copyright that, or if you haven't already, hopium. I am so sorry to interrupt you, but I tell my friends and family, I'm like, don't use hope as a source. Use actions. I hope they'll change. We do. We pop those 100%. Hopium like they're candy.
Hopium. That is brilliant. Yeah. Real quick, I'm just going to do just an interjection here. The Glen Gilbert Connection is about growth, leadership, and emotional clarity. It's not just for men. It's for anyone who values honest, grounded conversations about rebuilding after loss. If this episode is offering you something meaningful, I invite you to like, subscribe, and share. It helps this message reach others who need it, and it tells us we're on the right path. So let's continue. Thanks, Mr. J. So what are some common myths about betrayal trauma that you often debunk?
Well, once a cheater, always a cheater. That's absolutely not true. I believe just like an addict, once an addict, always vulnerable. But here's the deal. Infidelity hits because somebody hasn't addressed wounds If you're going to repair and rebuild with somebody and they address their wounds, they fill their wounds, they replace their bad coping mechanisms with healthy mechanisms, and they're consistent about it. Because let me tell you something, people on the healing journey after broken trust, I tell people all the time, especially couples that want to come back together and try to repair and rebuild. I'll tell the person who stepped out, say, listen, your spouse is not going to believe a word you say because words mean nothing to them. Words mean nothing to them right now. And I'm going to be honest with you, your behavior means nothing to them right now because while you were telling them you love them, you were leaving the house at 2 o'clock in the morning to go hook up with so-and-so. So your behavior is not, but what eventually is going to make you believable are your consistent patterns. Mm. So people that have consistent patterns, if they have consistent patterns where they've proven they've replaced unhealthy coping mechanisms with healthy coping mechanisms, then you pretty much 100% proved your marriage or your relationship where you will not have another infidelity. Mm. Another thing too is a lot of times people are not comfortable being vulnerable in their relationships. Well, infidelity or betrayal breaks open that cocoon that you've been living with in. And when you expose your vulnerabilities and you get comfortable being uncomfortable in front of your partner, then you have no interest in hiding certain parts from them that you want to give to other people because there's no emotional connection. Which is why a lot of times people say, how could they do this with that person and do that with this? Because this is all Monopoly. It's playing games. It's Candyland. They can go and be the knight in shining armor between 2 and 4 a.m. But then they got to come home and deal with real life. So, so this was all a fairy tale and all this. So I don't believe in once a cheater, always a cheater. I don't believe, men are dogs and women are whore who cheat. I don't believe any of that. I believe that seeking external validation by a cheater, by somebody cheating, was their drug of choice. They just need to replace that unhealthy mechanisms with healthy mechanisms. At the same token, trying to rebuild severely broken trust in your relationship. This is not a one and done journey. This is not any kind of race. This is a slow boat to China. But I'll tell you something. I tell people all the time, if you stick with it, and there's going to be days when you got your head in your hands and your hands on your knees and you're crying saying, I can't do this anymore. But if you stick with it and both parties are absolutely doing the work, you might not have your happily ever after, but you can certainly have your happily even after. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about that.
It's going to take a little while for that. That's not something that's going to happen over the weekend or even next month.
Nope.
Yeah. Let's buckle up. That'll be a long journey. Yeah. So how can someone rebuild trust after being betrayed? You kind of touched into that a little bit. Especially, let's say in future relationships, let's say this one broke off. The person's just, I cheated, they left, my spouse, loved one left. What do I need to do differently?
Well, if they're not rebuilding, they don't have to do anything in the relationship that's different. Or you're saying like if they just moved on to the next relationship?
Yeah, I'm thinking if the relationship ended and let's say the person who cheated, that relationship ended. Or they were just thinking, well, I might be able to get something from this new person. And that person is like, no. I'm thinking, what can somebody do for themselves who I cheated once before, kind of like what you just said. I guess we kind of talked about it. Cheated once before, but I see how it really hurt somebody. What can I do differently?
Well, first of all, one of the things I just want to say is you first hurt yourself. Because you compromised integrity, you compromised, so you first injured yourself. That's number one. And then you injured everyone around you. If you have a belief in a creator, you injured that relationship. Some people believe you disrespected your family lineage by doing this, what have you. So one of the things that people need to do is take a deep dive into why they ran to that unhealthy coping mechanisms. I say all the time, affairs are just like cutting. People cut, into their skin because they want to relieve themselves of pain. So people get into affairs for the same reason, usually. So one of the questions you have to ask yourself is, what were you trying to numb, distract, avoid, cope with? That's number one. Number two, why didn't you allow yourself to be vulnerable in the relationship or situation you were in to share what you need to prevent yourself from having this secret where now you had to go numb and distract and avoid and what have you. Another thing too is, what were you seeking? What did this affair give you that you didn't have? And you need to make sure that whatever that is, you replace in your own life. You don't put that responsibility on somebody else. You fill your own cup with what you needed, what have you. So really the thing is you need to rebuild trust within yourself, absolutely within yourself. And that's by just staying consistent, giving yourself small little promises and sticking to them, giving, whatever that is. Like I'm going to go to the gym today at 3:00. You make sure you go to the gym at 3:00. I'm going to, living more authentically, certainly in a relationship, living a lot more transparently, hey, I'm going to go to the store. You better make sure you go to the store, especially nowadays, we got these tracking apps on our phone. So really affairs are a drug of choice. Just like sexually acting out, even if somebody doesn't have an affair, but yet they're known to go to like massage parlors with like happy endings or whatever. What is it you're getting from that you need to replace an unhealthy coping mechanism with a coping mechanism? Listen, if you're single and you do whatever you want, but when you're in a committed relationship, that's not a healthy coping mechanism. So whatever you need to make sure. And I'll tell you something, a lot of people, Glenn, I'm sure you know this, they jump from relationship to relationship to relationship because that's their coping mechanism. But all they're doing is leaving a trail of jaded heart behind them, and they're solidifying their own heart with concrete, which is not good.
It says a lot that if someone wants to improve themselves, they need to take accountability and responsibility for their actions. And it doesn't, which is hard in itself, and it has to come from inside.
It is, because listen, one of the first things that a lot of times betrayers do is, especially this happens in session a lot. Well, if she would have did this, I wouldn't have done that. Or if he would have did this, I wouldn't have got this and whatever. And I'm like, whoa. Infidelity and affairs start in childhood. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe there was some contributing components your spouse did, but infidelity starts in childhood. So you need to, as Rose said, let's go back to Titanic. You need to do that introspection and reflection. Mm-hmm. What got you here?
Yeah, it's not about being disingenuous. It's about being genuine with yourself first. The whole of just, well, she did this or he did that, and so therefore I deserve to go and do whatever I need to do, which is like, whoa, like what you just said. It's like, take a moment to look at what you're missing before you hurt somebody else, because how are they going to know? How are they going to know that, oh, I'm not providing this? Am I doing something wrong? I have no idea. This person's going to be like, well, it's your fault, blah, blah, blah. Just to me, it's just a big lack of accountability, which can really hurt a lot.
Yeah. And listen, that's not to say that our spouses or partners or significant other can't add to components that would maybe create an environment that would make it, easier or better or what. But you still need to say, then why did I allow what they contributed to open up that door? I had many options. Mm-hmm. I could have left the relationship. I could have went to counseling. I could have talked with it. I had many options. Why did you do the most hurtful one? That comes back to you, period.
Right. So what are the signs that someone is stuck in a trauma bond, and how can they break free?
Well, I'm going to tell you something, and we've hit on this earlier. Mm-hmm. So much of our trauma comes from the suffering of the lies that we believed.
Right. And
you have to change your narrative. Mm. If I'm talking with a couple, let's just say, for example, let's use a male-female couple, and let's just say the male stepped out, right? This is what I'll hear a lot. Well, you cheated on me because you don't respect me. And the next couple, you cheated on me because you must think I'm ugly. And the next couple is, well, you cheated on me because whatever. What happens is they're taking their own insecurities and applying it to why their partner. They need to change their narrative. Stop trying to put interject reasons. We need to deal with facts, and then we need to start building on that. All these other things are just our own narrative. And unless you are going to address your own narrative, you're going to be stuck
Mm.
and you're going to circle and circle and circle. So you have to change your narrative, and that's going to get you unstuck. That's really 90% of the reason people are stuck is because they believe wholeheartedly in their story.
Mm-hmm. I understand. I had somebody tell me, a friend tell me, rumination is seeking an answer that'll never be there. If you're just kind of just going, oh, this is how it's how I got it. This is how I got it figured out, and blah blah. The answer will never come.
Yeah. And I understand that's hard for people because, I was talking before about the amygdala, but one of the other parts of the brain that's severely affected and damaged is our hippocampus. And that's that records time and location and stuff. Like for instance, when somebody discovers an infidelity in their life, it's like somebody pulls out the filing cabinet of your brain with all of your neatly strategically stacked folders. And the reason why we have this in our brain is because predictability keeps us safe. I mean, think about it, Glenn. You know where your girlfriend is right now. Probably the average family. Let's say we have Taco Tuesday, and next Sunday I got to go to my game, and I got to drop my son off here. And this is when I got married. This is when I had my first child. We know these dates, past, present, future, because predictability keeps us safe. When we learn of an infidelity, it's like somebody takes that big long filing cabinet out of our brain, climbs the highest mountain, turns it upside down, and puts our files everywhere. We don't know left from right, what's real and what's wrong. And which is a lot of times it affects our memory to where when you're talking to somebody who was affected by trauma, especially betrayal trauma, their memory is so affected, they start forgetting things that happened in their childhood. They're like, wait a minute, did that happen when I was 4 or was I 7? No, I was 14. They can't even keep track because that was so completely robbed. And then what? So now you're trying to heal yourself, heal a relationship, grow, learn, be a functioning human being, while so many parts of your brain are hijacked. It's just it's like ice skating uphill for a lot of people.
Mm. Mm. It's possible, but it's very tough.
It's absolutely, well, it's not only possible, it's probable if you do the work, because there's many studies that have shown there are steps that if you take, as long as you're not married to your story, there's a good chance you can heal and rebuild and repair. And I'm going to tell you something else, Glenn, and I can give you stories, not that we have time now, of people that have such a better, more loving, open, vulnerable, amazing relationship than they ever had before after broken trust.
That's amazing. There is hope.
You take somebody who had a heart attack, and 10 years later, you look at them and they're like in the best shape and the best attitude, and they're eating right and they're feeling good and they're doing all these amazing things. And they'll say, this was a good wake-up call. This was a big wake-up call for me, and I'm living differently now. Same thing with infidelity in couples.
It always takes inner work, though, first.
100%.
Yeah. So what are some of the somatic tools or body-based healing that you use in your coaching practice?
Oh, there's so many. But one of the things that, first of all, I recommend people get into some trauma yoga. I don't do any myself, but I do recommend people get into trauma yoga.
I'm sorry. Trauma yoga.
Yeah, you can look it up. Google it. It's trauma yoga.
Okay. Yeah.
There's other practices, EMDR. I don't do that either, but I recommend they find some EMDR. Now, EMDR is eye movement, and I'll tell you something. A lot of times when people come to me, there's a lot of frustrations people have, and I'm going to give you one of them right now. When you discover there's a betrayal in your relationship, and you're like, oh my gosh, who do I go to? Then you go to you try to find a mental health professional. First of all, usually you're on a waiting list. That's a frustration. Second of all, you have to pay something, even if it's a copay. That's frustrating because you're like, wait a minute, I was betrayed and deceived, and now I got to pay money to fix me. No, that's infuriating. Then when you do talk to a mental health professional, unless they're trauma informed, what are they going to work on? Communication techniques? What am I going to do with that? Wipe with it? I mean, come on, I don't need communication techniques. I'm dying here mentally. So there's a lot of frustration. So one of the things that I try to even do on my social media, which all of them are free, I try to give a lot of tips and techniques on social media, that way to try to save people money. EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization, it's a great practice. But even if you don't find somebody to do that, you know what you can do? And obviously, it's not going to work wonders, but it's going to help a little bit. Take a walk. And when you take a walk, I want you to talk to yourself and say, you know what? This situation bothered me. And think about a situation that bothered you. Then walk and look both sides of the street while you're walking. Look at the tree on this side, look at the bush on that side. The tree, the bush, and then stop periodically and say, how do you feel about that now? How do you feel about that now? Then walk some more and do that. You can, I'm not saying it's going to be as effective as if you're with a mental health professional, but you're doing your own EMDR. Mm-hmm. It's trauma yoga at home, free. So like you can absolutely talk to a professional, but a lot of the things that we talk about, you can do for free, which I do caution people with AI therapy. That's a whole nother topic at some point maybe we'll get into, but
that'll be that'll be our next podcast, AI therapy.
Yeah. Another thing too is one of the things that I have people do is do a visual push. So basically you're taking your hands and you're pretending there's a big wall in front of you and it's giving you a lot of resistance, and you're really pushing it. This helps with a few different reasons and things, but ultimately it gives you a sense of empowerment. And really, when you are betrayed, one of the things that comes with betrayal is you are robbed of choices, robbed of decisions, which robs you of empowerment. So you really want to get your empowerment back. Another one of my favorite techniques is I call it the soft, warm, fuzzy ball. And basically, you just lie down and you think of your favorite color in a warm, fuzzy ball, and preferably you're on your back and on your bed, but you can do this even if you're in a chair. And the other thing too is this process not only helps you somatically, but it also helps you fall asleep. And after a broken trust, you have a hard time falling asleep. So basically, you just imagine very, very slow, this warm, fuzzy ball going into the heel of your foot, just warm. And what it's doing is very slowly, it's going in every inch of your body. It's going down to your heel, and then it's going to the middle of your foot, and then it's going to each of your toes, your big toe, and you're visualizing this, all toes. And then it's slowly working up to your Achilles heel, and then your knee. And what this ball is doing is it's starving and it's looking for trauma in your body. And it's eating all the trauma that it sees. And you go through this visual somatic process, and eventually you work up to your eyes and your forehead and your head, and then the ball leaves. Now, obviously, the ball is much bigger now because it's eating trauma. It's going to come back hungry again, and that's good. And you do this again. But people that do this, many of them come back and say, man, I felt 20 pounds lighter. Another thing you can do, I mean, there's just a lot of things you can do somatically, and I don't want to, take up too much time.
The time is on you, man.
Okay. Somatic techniques are great and they're wonderful. But most importantly, I think one of the really good benefits of somatic techniques is they really give you a sense of empowerment. And I always say, after betrayal, you feel so defeated. You feel so defiled. You feel so disrespected. Your choices, your decisions were robbed from you. One of the things I have people do is stay out loud vocally your intentions and then follow through. Like, for instance, I'm going to shower tonight at 8:00, or I'm going to buy bread tomorrow at the store at 4:00, and make sure you do that. Because yes, you can buy bread at 3 or you can shower at 9, but you want to give yourself back a sense of empowerment. This is what I'm going to do with my body at this time. And then you do it, it gives you a sense of empowerment.
It almost sounds like what you're doing for the patient is there is a weight that they are feeling, or they're just dragged down by, that you're helping to just kind of like, let's get some of that weight off of there. So you can kind of lift yourself up.
Absolutely. While I'm working with their partner, while I'm working with them internally, while I'm working on a lot of things environmentally. Yeah, I mean, this is not a one size fits all. I was a teacher for many years, and I used to teach special education, and we used to have what's called a oh my Lord, now I forgot it. It's the kids that are they have a oh Lord, it's a specialized plan for them. That's what it is. I can't think of the word right now, and I can't believe I can't. but it's a specialized plan for children on how they need to be educated, how they're best going to be receptive to their education plan.
Mhm.
And what I did was I took that concept into my practice now, and now I give everybody an individualized healing plan.
Mhm.
Because Glenn, what you would need if you were betrayed is completely different from what I would need. Completely
Right.
different from down the man in the street, whatever. Because we're different people, and betrayal is going to hit us differently, even down to many things.
Sure.
How we like. I ask people, where are you in the hierarchy of your family? Are you the eldest, the middle, the child? Because we look through life completely different depending on where we are. So everybody has to have. It's an IEP. That's what it is for people that are listening. Individualized education plan or protocol. And so like I said, I took that concept. Now I have an IHP. It's an individualized healing plan. What do you need specifically to heal from this, whether you're staying or leaving?
Hmm. Hmm. So what does it mean to reclaim your voice after betrayal? And why is that important?
Well, like I said, it's a lot of this is kind of just going to repeat what I said in the last question,
Oh.
is that your voice was robbed, your
Mhm.
choices were taken, your decisions were made for you. You were playing a game with somebody, following the rules, but they had a completely different set of rules they were following, and you didn't know about it. And so now what you need to do is you need to reclaim what you know is true. And what you know is true is, you stayed faithful, or you did this, or you did that. And like I said, just doing all the things that I did before. One of the things that's really, really, really uh, important is to, and I know this sounds kind of cheeky or corny or whatever, but you really should journal. People got to journal. I'm going to tell you why. When we have all this crap in our head, the only thing we can do with it is create stories with it. And creating stories is one of the worst things we can do, because when we hear information, we hear it, it goes through our wounded filters, and then we have to interpret it somehow. Well, we're going to interpret it improperly if it goes through our wounded filters. So really, we got to get a lot of this stuff out of our head. We got to write it on paper. I'm going to tell you one more
Mhm. Mhm.
technique. I took a course at UC Berkeley. It was called The Science of Happiness.
Mhm.
And I'm going to save your listeners a lot of money because this course was expensive.
Mhm.
But what they found was the number one key to happiness was gratitude. And so one of the things that I recommend to my couples or my individuals is have a gratitude journal. You have a regular journal, but you have a specific journal for gratitude. It's a gratitude journal. And here's the difference. Every day you write 3 things that you're thankful for, but studies have shown if you write 3 reasons for each, that's what's going to make the impact. So, for example, you can write down, okay, today I'm thankful for my nose. Okay, 3 reasons why. Well, when I turn to the side, I like my profile. I like my nose that way. 2, when I make cookies and pizza, I smell it. My nose lets me enjoy the fruits of my labor. Also, if I smell smoke, my nose keeps me safe because I know to run. So that's 3 reasons for you. So if you write down 3 things you're thankful for and 3 reasons for each,
Mhm.
that's what makes a profound difference. And gratitude is what changes us internally. And that leads to our self-resilience, our self-acceptance, our self-trust, all this other stuff. So I really implore people to have a gratitude journal. And then, like I said, state what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and follow through. And these don't have to be big things. A lot of people are like, oh, gratitude journal. I don't have $10,000 to be grateful for. Did you find a penny outside? Because I'm sure some homeless person would love that penny. It doesn't have to be something big. You don't have to do 1,000 push-ups a day. How about you say, today I'm going to do 10 jumping jacks. I don't care if you do 2 every other hour. If you get, I'm grateful that I did 10 jumping jacks today. And I said I was going to do it, and I did it. I'm proud of myself. Pebbles make mountains and raindrops make seas. These don't have to be big things at all. Just small things, small accomplishments we can be grateful for. And they have huge benefits.
Right. And it doesn't even, I'm just thinking it could be just something as take a walk. If it's sunny out, it's like the beauty of nature. It's beautiful outside. Even if it's rainy or misty, it's like there's a beauty in that. Just absorbing the outside, just some little thing to provide you with some gratitude. I think that's brilliant. Um, I'm also thinking there is if I've heard this correctly, there's a big difference between writing it down and using a computer. Like writing it down makes it stick
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot better,
Well,
a lot better.
two things. First of all, I just want to tell you there's something in nature called phytoncides,
Mhm.
PHY, phytoncides,
Mhm.
where trees give off um, healing components to
Mm.
humans. So going out in nature has so many benefits. Not only just its beauty, there's also these phytoncides. But the other thing too is um, we can use a lot of our senses when we're outside in nature, and really a lot of our senses are hijacked. After when we're going through something, and this really allows us to release that. Yes, without question. If people write things down on computer, that's probably about 50% effective. If people write things down with their hand, that's about 75%
Effective.
beneficial.
Yeah.
But if you write with your non-dominant hand, that's 100% effective.
Well, I've
And the
never.
reason for that is because it lowers filters in the brain. So if you write with your non-dominant, even though it might look like chicken scratch, but keep in mind, this isn't for anyone to read. You don't have to share this. It's just you. Write with your non-dominant hand journaling. That's going to be 100% effective than anything else.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Um, how do you support clients who feel shame or guilt for staying in a toxic relationship?
Uh, Toxic relationships,
Yeah,
because that's
if that's how someone wants to label it. If it's a toxic relationship, how would you support that client who may feel shame or guilt?
well, that's a good question, but difficult. I would absolutely do all I can to empower this person to make different decisions because I would not probably want somebody to stay in a toxic relationship. Because really staying in a toxic relationship is just going to constantly chip away at your self-worth. But what I don't want people is to say, if you're rebuilding and repairing after broken trust, that's a toxic relationship. So because that's what I hear a lot is, Mr. J, my mother won't talk to me now because I'm staying with my husband because she knows he cheated. Or, Mr. J, my friends won't talk to me now because, my male friends say, what kind of a man are you that your wife was with somebody else and whatever. You're now in a toxic, dysfunctional relationship. And I'll be like, no, that's not correct at all. You're in a renewed relationship where you're repairing and rebuilding. So if somebody was in a absolutely toxic relationship, I would try to empower them to make healthier decisions to either change the dynamics of their relationship or leave.
Yeah.
But if somebody decided to stay and their partner was at least giving it a good effort, I would try to reframe their belief that it's even a toxic relationship to begin with.
I guess it really depends on how a person defines toxic. Because, like what we talked about earlier, even red flags people want to ignore. And they're like, well, I don't know I'm even in a toxic relationship, but I feel horrible and I don't know what's happening to me. Like every boundary they have, they've just kind of let go. And so,
Well, I always say if you ever want to gauge the health of your relationship, it's how do you feel about yourself when you're around that person?
mhm.
Your body, your intuition will give you signs. Now, is that always an end all, be all panacea? No, because some people were raised around trauma and dysfunction and abuse so long, they're not even in control or in tune with themselves. But that aside, usually when you're with somebody and you leave that person, whether it's, just to leave their house or leave from whatever, your body will tell you, well, I feel good when I'm around this person, or I feel guarded or what have you. So
Right.
really tune into your intuition when you're around people. Listen, our hearts will deceive us, our mind will trick us, but our intuition, man, it just goes on fact. It won't ever lie to us.
Nice. So, what advice or what's your advice for someone who feels broken and hopeless after betrayal?
Number one, let them know you are not alone. Honestly, You're not alone. Um, I think the statistics are about 50 to 55% of every relationship is going to encounter some type of broken trust.
Mm.
So you're not alone. Now, I will also say another statistic is about 75% of couples that do want to stay together after broken trust do. The problem is we live in a society where everyone that leaves a relationship after broken trust, they're the vocal ones. I left his cheating butt, or I left her this and that. So all we hear about is the stories of the dogs and the cheaters and the whatever. No, very rarely do people want to get on social media and say, my husband cheated on me, but we're doing so well. Like nobody says those stories.
Mm.
But statistics show that about 75% of couples that do want to rebuild and repair absolutely do. However, there's going to be a time you're broken. There's going to be a time you're broken. And I feel for you and I have compassion for you. But just think of this. You are now in the gym. You're breaking down your muscles. They feel broken. They feel weak. You can't even lift your arm, but keep doing the work and you're going to see the muscles being built. Keep doing the work and you're going to see your relationship doing the work. Keep doing the work and you're going to see your marriage grow. That's what I would tell them.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. At least there is a way out. You just have to put some effort into it. And it's going to be hard.
Time.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be struggles. That's part of the reason why I think it's good to have a circle of really close friends that, like you said earlier, hey, I just need to talk to, I'm just going to vent. I'm just going to vent for like 10 minutes and then I'll hang up. I need your ear for just 8 minutes. That's all I need.
Yeah. And all I need maybe once in a while is a few, I hear you, acknowledge me. So that's it.
That's it. It's really that straightforward. Oh, it's brilliant.
Takes a village.
It takes a village, but
a healthy village.
But there is always hope. There's ways to deal with it and to come out of it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can betrayal ever lead to personal transformation or post-traumatic growth? I think we talked a little bit about that, but
it can and it does. I told you about, the person that had the heart attack. I mean, we can have a heart attack and then keep living and doing as is. And the next heart attack is our tombstone. Or you can have a heart attack and you can use that as your stepping stone. And after that, you're in the healthiest, your blood work looks good, you look good, you feel great, you made decisions in your life, you put up boundaries, you're not around toxic. You're living the life now. Unfortunately, it took that heart attack. Now, I would never wish betrayal on anyone whatsoever. Absolutely not. But absolutely, you can make it your stepping stone. It doesn't have to be your tombstone.
Yeah. There are tools out there just in case. What did you say? 1 out of 2? When that betrayal happens or some form of, there are tools out there to help.
Absolutely.
So where can people find you? If they want to get some information from or have follow-up questions or want to contact you for some sessions.
Yeah. I have the easiest website. I think it's mrjrelationshipcoach.com. But as I tell everyone, even if you never want to hear my voice again, see my face, talk to me, what have you, I have a lot of free resources on my website. So again, it's mrjrelationshipcoach.com. Just come and take advantage of the free resources. I have lots on there, including wonderful interviews like yours.
Oh, thank you. Well, there was a wealth of information that you provided to myself and to others. And I'm very appreciative of your time and efforts. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close up?
I'll just say this very quickly. I just want to say this. In the history of humankind, nobody's ever died from a snake bite. I say this all the time. Nobody's ever died from a snake bite. What people die from is when the snake bites you and the venom gets in your veins and reaches your heart. So listen, there's a lot of reasons and times and opportunities for us to hear things, experience things. But let's not let that venom get to our heart. That's what destroys us. So just be mindful of that.
That's wonderful. I agree 100%. So healing, trust, empowerment, they may not be the first words that come to mind when we talk about betrayal. But after today's conversation with Mr. J, they just might be. We've seen how deception, abandonment, and broken trust don't have to be the end of the story. With the right guidance, they can be the beginning of something deeper: purpose, strength, and a new kind of clarity. If this episode moved you, share it, subscribe, and keep showing up for yourself and for those who need your voice. This is the Glen Gilbert Connection, and we're building something real. Thank you again, Mr. J. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.